Welcome back. It's been a while since I've posted a video showing some of the features that I'm putting in into my kind of quote quote mod manager. I thought now would kind of be a good time. Most of my time has been spent, believe it or not, modding Skyrim. That was a lot to absorb. But I'll tell you, I'll definitely talk about that at a later time. That's been interesting. So many files, and it's almost like opening an encyclopedia and then having a test on it at the end of the day to see if you even remember everything. It's just a massive amount of data. And I've been working on the libraries. I wanted to get the libraries completed because they're used in so many different applications, and it's basically part of the main framework that really everything uses. Uh, okay, so let me go ahead and get started. So those who have seen this, they've seen it before. Basically, it's a framework. Is really what it is. It's the exact same framework that FOMod utility uses, the master list. Any one of my GUI interfaces, my recent ones, my newest ones, especially the ones that are related to this application or let's say games. It's the same framework. It just has a lot more function calls, and the application specific code is there's more application specific code, but it utilizes pretty much all. Well, depends on the library, but I'm gonna go ahead and use the term all. It pretty much utilizes all of the library's features. So almost every method in the game library can be accessed through this. I'll give you a quick example here real quick. So in the master list utility where it actually scans the files, the same thing exists in here. It's the exact same call, but it's linked different in the menu. So over here, I have it under search. So it would be contained in. So I have it over here. And I did move the files around a little bit, so I'll have to go in and change the actual menu text file to point to the correct file. So that it's everything is here. So it's just I have it in different locations. But one of the things I've been working on is I wanted to work on the installation process because it started with it kind of started with Skyrim because I had so many mods like before I knew it. And I hate to say gotta go back to Skyrim, but before I knew it, I had 1,000 mods, if not more. Like, I think it was like 14 or 1,500, and I'm like, "God, I can't keep track of all these. There's just too much." And of course, by then, the modded game is so broken, it's DOA. So, I'm thinking I have to have a better way to do this. So I'm thinking, okay, well, let me and in the process of having that many mods, I encountered a lot of different bugs. A lot of different things didn't work. I wasn't sure what might cause it, and I'm thinking, yeah, I need a much much better system. So I already had in this application there was already an installation order, like in Mod Organizer 2, you'll have it on one side, which is how your mods line up, and then on another side you'll have where your plugins line up. And I'm assuming Vortex does something very similar. Um, but I'm not that familiar with it. But in this one, I just used a single list. So this would be like the plugins, and then you can switch the lists over. So this switches back over to your install order. It's yeah, I just thought I would switch the list over so you don't have to have two different things. Okay, so some of the new things that's been added is we have there's new record identifiers, and it's extensible. The way that I've done it, it's really, really extensible. So you can add you can add more record identifiers than what I've put in here. But to start out with, this is a comment identifier. Now, what's interesting about this is I had already had commented comments in the code, but I didn't really put it. in the installation order like this. I actually had comments in a configuration file, and I tried to find a very, very generic way to do it because I don't like to spend a lot of time doing very, very specific stuff and then have to turn right around and replicate that code. It's just it's to me because the problem with it is when you make one change that it's gonna affect both code segments, so it's a lot to keep track of. It's better to simplify it, make it a single function, and then you can, when you change that one function, both of the calling functions or methods, they both benefit from that change. So I'm thinking so I had that in there, and then I also put the comments in the well, it really wasn't so much comments. You can break this down into sections and headers. Well, I call them sections and categories, but they're really just it's just a single bit flag that gets set. So you can see that this is like a section, and a category won't have any bars around it. It won't have like the little kind of it'll just be gray. Like see here you can see this has a kind of 3D bar on it. That would be a section, and then this would be just a category. You could probably subdivide it even more if you wanted, but that's to me, that's good. That's plenty. For this, that's plenty. But I didn't really when I exported the load order, the actual load order, I left the comments or the not the comments, but the section, and I left the category. I exported that with the load order. And I used the, pound sign, so therefore, it's not gonna interfere now when the game not interfere with the game, but when the game loads, when it loads it, it's gonna strip it out. But I did that so that, anybody who looked at the load order could literally see that this is how I had organized it. It's just a way of kinda saying, "Okay, this is how I organized it," and it might not that it's perfect, but, it might give somebody who really needs the assistance, a little bit more something a little a guide, something to kinda give them a guide to go by. So then I noticed that, again, another mod author had came up, they put comments in the actual load order and the install, and I'm thinking, "Why would you wanna do that?" And then I'm thinking, "Okay, well, that's not a bad idea. I like that. That's a good idea." So it was just kinda tossed it in here, and you can see it in these kind of entries or these kind of items that you see in this list view. So, they are centered. They're very basic. I just kinda tossed it in to get it in there. I can go back and visit later, but, it's basically a header, but it's a header that has certain formatting, and you can see it's a different type of format, so it doesn't have the square box, and it doesn't have the lines in between it, and it literally draws these little boxes here. So yeah, and and on a side note, I am gonna go back and visit these because I wanna these I have not reworked these for a very, very long time. And the actual custom drawing routines need to be completely redone. Because there's some graphic things I wanna try to just to play around with it. And so they'll definitely have to be redone for that to buy me some extra cycles to do the things I'm wanting to do. Okay, so back onto this. So I went ahead and put that in there, and it makes it a little bit easier to see. So as opposed to when you're doing an install, throwing up little text messages, you can actually see it here. The next thing I wanted to do is I thought, okay, so I've got so many different mods. What order do I want to install these in? But it wasn't so much the order of like what comes before something else or what needs to be installed before something else. It's how can I group all of these mods together in a modular way? So, as an example, let's say that I'm working on a new load order. I don't want to insert mods in the middle of something that I'm doing. I don't want to worry about that. That's very, very difficult to test because you don't know which mod it's interacting with. So what I did was I thought, okay, I'm gonna break this down into installable chunks. And that's what this right here is. So when you look at like if you look at you look at this, and again, this is a text-based menu that literally says, when I click on this item, what kind of item is it, and what kind of menu options do you want to show? So if it's this item, it's going to pass this file name to this function. Basically, how that works. It's all user configurable. So if you notice up here, I have a install section. You can do a check section. And then if you go down here, if you look at one of these, you have the same thing. So what I did was I thought, okay, so I'm going to reinstall. I'm going to wind up reinstalling the game anyways. So let's do this in digestible chunks, what programmers call very, very digestible chunks. So, in a nutshell, if it is a section, because this doesn't really tell you the difference, if this is a section, then it will install everything that is within that section. So it installs everything to the next section identifier. It would be all of this. But if you do a category, and I know it's a section, but even if you do a category, if you do a category, it only installs to the next category or section. Okay, so that it makes it very, very digestible install. So an example, if I want to install this one, this is a section, so it's only going to install up to the next section. So in a sense, it's just going to give me my tools. Here is, if I take a look at this one is required. This is like what I'm considering absolutely required for my base game. So if I was to click this, it'll install these. This was done from it, the install was started from a section. It's going to keep going. This is not a section, this is a category. So it assumes this is part of this. So it's going to install all the way down to here. And what that lets me do is say I can install, so basically how I set it up was I can get my base game installed in chunks, and then I can do the interface. So in a sense, I can have not the cut, not like, let's say not a custom interface, like let's say Edge UI or Volduin or anything like that, or Oathbane, but just the interface. What is the required interface? What are the interface programs that are used by all of these other customized interfaces? So it's basically what I call the base game, but it's installable in chunks. And again, you can always go in and install everything. Let's see, do I have this one in here? Yeah, full installation. So you can just, and it literally installs from top to bottom. It'll actually show you down here. It'll show you down here the status of the install. So you could, let's find something really small here and I'll show you some of the things. Let's check this one out. We'll do this one. I'm not sure what this is, but let's do a check section. So in effect, what this does is s- you have there's a method in the game library that checks. You give it a folder and it checks it against what files are installed. It'll tell you if they're different and these are all the same. Now, this is not 100% perfect because I use a random sample, or not so much a random, but I use intermittent sampling. So if the file is the same size and the samples turn out the same, it doesn't know the difference. I will change that in the future, but right now that is the fastest way on the fly that I could do it. There might be a better. I mean, when I was talking, when you're talking really massive files, like when you're talking like megabytes, especially like let's say the main game archives, things like that, the BSA files, they get massive. So it was a very slow process, and I didn't want to hang it up. So kind of wait till that's done. So it's not the best way to do it, but it does catch a lot of instances. But what I did was I changed the install. That's what I'm refactoring now. And it's funny because I just thought of this about a couple months ago. I was thinking, or about a month and a half ago, I'm thinking, I need to change all this because I've set this up different now, so I'm gonna have to retro it back. But in effect, what happened, what happened was is instead of installing one item like this, you can actually install a bunch of items. So you can just go in and say, oh, I want to install that one. I want to install that one, I want to install that one, and I want to install that one. And you can right click on it and you can actually do an install. and it'll install that's what it installs. It'll only install the ones you've selected. Or if you pick a single one like this, it'll install that, or you can install a section. So one like the section was kind of an offshoot of how you select the different the different sections and stuff. It's kind of like it was an offshoot of that. And it uses the exact same game library routines. There's nothing special about it. The only difference is the framework. This framework here has to know which mods you want to install because those installation routines, depending on which one you call, either you pass a single file name to it or you pass a list of files to install or folders to install. And all I had to do is come up with different ways to acquire that list. So this right here would be a single item in a list, where this would be 3 items. Oops, whoops. This would be there we go. This would be 3 items in a list, right? So 1, 2, 3. So if you do like an install, and don't worry, we'll fix that in a second. So if you do like a direct install, it would get those 3 items in that list. Okay, so yeah, that's basically what that is. So I'm migrating everything over to where it can work off multiple folders. Now, I had something in there that's been in there for a while, but I didn't like the way it was done. It was kind of thrown in there. It's kind of like, oh, here's let's just take this pie grenade and let's stick this little note in it and go me be cool, and then let's just throw it and see what happens. But but that being said, the way that I did it was I called the same routine multiple times. So if you selected multiple items, I simply called the same function multiple times. And I'm thinking, I don't really want to do that. So I changed the way that works. It's still in there. You can enable it with a switch, but I myself don't use it now. I actually do the multiple selections, and I like that better. So that's kind of like how I was migrating it. So it comes to editing. I do have, like, where you can, like, move and stuff, you can move things around, but it's kinda slow. You could probably do block copies and stuff, and it's kinda slow. But what I didn't really wanna do, like, a paste in here, like, let's say I didn't wanna paste something directly in this item because I'd have to try to figure out what the item is, and it is possible you can do that. But to me, that's a little bit too slow. So what I did was, I thought, you know what? I'm just gonna copy the thing from the clipboard. There's our good old friend, the clipboard with the master list thing. But anyways, you can do an AC. So you can do an A. We're gonna copy all this stuff from the clipboard and we're gonna put it directly in here. So it just imported it from the clipboard. And you can see the thing that I actually, let's see what I did here. This is block overhaul. So that's over here somewhere. So when I double clicked it, I deactivated it. So let's look up Maxis. I think I got that off the something. Is that what it is? Mitsu. Oh my gosh, it's kind of hard for me to read. Matsu. All right, Mr. Matsu. Let's go in here and make you a Matsu. I thought he was in here somewhere. You're not in here? Where are you, Mr. Matsu? I do not know where he went. He is gone. Okay, we'll put that up for the bug of the day. But in a sense, but back to the actual thing here. So in a sense, that's what it is. That's kind of like how that works, and that's the difference. And I can probably check to see if this thing is installed. Maybe. Let's see. Yeah, it's there. I thought that's what it was called. Oh, I see what the problem is. It is not Matsu. It is Max. All right, Maximilian. Ah, there we go. Okay, so she's right here. Okay. All right, so what we'll do is let's do these. Let's put it back in, which it put it all the way back down to the bottom. And then let's see if that fixes it. Because one of the things I do have to work on, and this may or may not work, one of the things I do have to work on is, let's see, that one's totally different. All right, where's Maxu? Okay, good. Maxu is fixed. So there's a dictionary that keeps track of different things, and sometimes the flags get confused. Sometimes I delete things directly over here, but it doesn't actually update over here, and that's usually what this is. But this is the install order, and this is kind of like how I built the game. So when I redid the game, I just went in and installed chunk by chunk by chunk, fired off the game, make sure that the game works, make sure I don't have any problems, and then if we're good, we move on to the next chunk. And the way I laid this out was you have very, very specific sections now that are your custom interfaces, your custom textures. So I can go back in and I can, let's say I want to try Oathfame. So I go back into the custom section and I just remove all of I can do it over here in this. I can just remove all of the custom interfaces. And I believe you can find it here with Edge. See, I put it here. So this is all of the custom. This is where I put the custom Edge interface in. So the files actually will replace many of the like your true HUD, your more HUD. It'll replace those files. It'll replace the Swift files, which is like your interface files. So that's kind of like what that does. Um, there's another thing I'm working on, which I'm going to be working on it here this afternoon. I'm gonna work out here very, very shortly. And I'm gonna have to figure that one out. I'm gonna figure that one next. But what it does is it literally puts a floating toolbar. It's just a very, very simple floating toolbar. It's like this. It'll be like this toolbar. It's kind of like very similar to this toolbar here, but it can be put in any list view. See, there's no tools defined yet, but I was just showing you. You can put it in, take it out, put it in, take it out, and it basically allows extra options to appear for whatever that list view is. So you don't have to always rely on, let's say, this menu. You can have other options that you can choose. So that's the thing I'm going to be working on today. I've already got the code to put the bar in there. All I got to do is populate it with images and link it back, and then I want to retro that over to here. So in a sense, I want to take this toolbar and I want to put it into that toolbar. That's basically how I kind of want that to work. Let me see. I don't know if there's really anything else that I can show. I mean, there's a few extra reports here. There's manifest reports. I do have some new reporting here. You can see manifest entries. So the manifest has been in there for a while. In fact, the manifest has existed for quite a while because this program here is like an iteration of another program. There was a ModHelper program, God, back in what 2016, 17, I think is way back. And but it was didn't really have all these external libraries. It wasn't quite as big of a project because the external libraries are to be used with command shells. It's just there was more design going into this than the very first one. But you can see the entries. These are the entries I was talking about. All of this is in that games library. So, like, let's say in the FOMod utility, I'll actually have a video showing how to do that. To where if you want to mod it, you want to actually modify the FOMod utility to be absolutely standalone. In a sense, the way I'm going to show it is you'll drag and drop an archive into the FOMod. It'll extract it for you into a folder. It'll build it, and then you can go in and install it. I'll even put the check install. The actual reporting, like this is I call this a report. This report is actually generated in the games library. All I'm doing here in the framework is I'm simply calling that function. I said, I want you to generate a report for the manifest entries. And then when you're done, you're going to tell me when you're done. And when you're done, then I'm going to retrieve the report that you just created and then I'm gonna throw it up on the screen. And that is true of every single thing you see here. Everything here is generally, well, not, I can't really say everything, but pretty much everything you see here is actually generated externally, and it's only displayed here. You can display it that way it's displayable in any application. It doesn't, it's not necessarily just this application. So, but this is the manifest. I've got to go in and clean this up. I'm working on a way to go in and link, because if you have multiple installs, you don't really need the first install because you just had a successive install. Like, let's say let's say you install 50 files, you install another 50 files. You don't really need the first one because the second one completely overwrote the first one, and it literally builds up. And then you have delete. If you delete all the files, then both the install and the delete needs to be removed from the manifest. You don't have to remove it. It's actually over here where you flush it. There's actually a, let me see here, what is freezing us up? I'm not sure exactly why we froze here, but in a sense, basically, you don't really have to flush it out, but you can, and I put it in there, just in case. Let's see here. What are we doing? What happens? Where are we at? Where did we freeze? Oh, this is a drive info. Yeah, this is interesting because let me go ahead and kill this. It it does something really weird. I don't know if it's where I changed the apartment states of the. I don't know if it's where I changed the apartment states of the workers that's running, but whatever it was, whenever it goes to load drive information, it'll actually freeze everything up. I'll show you. Like over here, it's really weird. I'm not sure. I'm not sure. It could be a bug somewhere. I'm not sure exactly what's causing it, but like this is what I'm talking about. See how it froze everything up? So once it's done, and I don't know if it's actually trying to check or see how it does this. So I didn't see that before, but I see that now. So that may be where I switched everything over to apartment state. So or I think it's like apartment state apartment for workers. So I do have it set to be condition, like there's a flag where you can flip that on and off. And right now it's set as default for all workers, but I may have to flip that off and see if that's what caused that issue. And that's what happens. So, and there's so and another interesting thing about the debugger, the reason it crashed, if anybody ever programs or does this, is if you got threads running in the background and you stop one thread, you don't necessarily stop the other ones, and it'll jank out. It's really because this thing is multi-threaded. Like almost everything runs on a thread, except like the main interface. This doesn't run a thread, but all that stuff aside, that's kind of like what, oh, and this right here, this is generated in the utilities library. This is a utility library report. So it just contains the items. It'll contain like this header and it contains item, but it doesn't contain the form. And let me take a second now that I'm thinking about it, I'll take a second and I'll show you how this works. So I think it's let's just try to get in the general vicinity here. Let's see. What we're looking for is something where we're going to throw a thread. All right, let's do hmm, let's try. All right, let's try this. All right, this is a perfect example I'm talking about. Okay, so this is the framework, and you can see this is just a case statement. That's the opcode. So you would call OPT 1620, and then, or you could put 1620 if you use the function structure because it works either or. But basically, here is the exact layout of almost every single call because it's the job of the framework to interface with the libraries. So the framework can either give you the single function call from the library, or it will combine different function calls from the same or different libraries. It'll combine those calls into a feature. And that's what the actual interface does. That's what the framework does. And that's true of any application that uses this. So just to give you a kind of like a foreshadowing of what I'm going to be doing here, not today. I won't have time to do it today, but I'll actually do it here coming up. It really has 3 parts, basically. Well, this part doesn't necessarily have to be here, but for this one, it does. So here's what I want to do. I want to install, this is installing a mod folder. I want to install the mod folder. So I want to pass a folder that I want to install in my game. And then when it's done, when the installation is done, I want to see a report that shows me what you did. That's really what I want to install, and I want to see a report on what happened. So the opcode that gets fired off is this. The callback, it's what I'm calling a callback, comes back to this. You can have a callback
Let's
to
get to
any
modding.
function you want. You can have a callback to literally any opcode you want. But a callback generally goes back to the same opcode that it started from. So when you first go through this opcode, when this opcode is first called, the first thing it does, it throws up a waiting animation. That's the little spinning thing that you see. And then it actually calls, this is the worker that does the installation. It's local to this application. I'll show you that here in just a second. And then it starts the worker. So that fires the worker off. So this starts this. When it's done, and I'll show you down below in the install mod, when it's done, there's a callback. This particular method actually calls this method back, and it's just a library method called callback, and you pass it the actual function code, the whole block. You pass it the whole block. You pass it this opcode block. I'll show you. Okay, so when that happens, that means this gets executed again, and the only way I can tell that it's a callback is if the callback flag is set. Otherwise, it's going to do this all over again. And every single one of these, including the ones in the application, can be set up like this. If I don't include this callback and this waiting thing, I could just put this right here. This that can just do this. Not even the thread. I can literally just call this from within this case statement. But what that will do is that will stop. It'll freeze processing. It literally freezes everything up until it's done. It stops input because that's your main thread. That's the main application thread. So I don't want to do that. So that's why I put everything on threads. Everything's running on kind of like its own thread. So if you were to do this, if you're installing like 50 different folders and it takes like 10 minutes, you can literally, it doesn't lock up the app. You can actually go in and keep moving around and do stuff and checking stuff, and it'll show you the status. You don't want to change the folders that you're installing, but you kind of get the idea. Okay, so I'll show you the callback thing, and that's basically what it is. So check for callback. Oh, and then once the callback happens, it says, "Yep, this is a callback." So that's the report. So you can see where it opens the form. This is the form name. That is the format for the form. So the form name is the title that you would see on the form. That's this right here. As an example, that's this, because these are all reports that are generated in external libraries. They just don't automatically display. So that's the title right here. And the way that the designer works, the designer part of the library, the utilities library, is that if you give it a format, it knows what to look up in the formats file, which is over here. And I know it seems complicated, but it's really it's not super complicated. Let me find this real quick. Um, Here, it's this. So if you don't specify a format, like if you're over here looking at this is not a format per se. So if it can't, like this would, I'm not sure what this translates to, probably install report. So over here, there is no install report, so I believe so here it is. But if it can't find this, that's what this win94 converts to, and that's in the locals file. So it converts if it can't find this, it automatically defaults to what you see here. It defaults to a list view. This really lets you design how you want the form or the window to look. So in some cases, you'll see FMT, let's say 513, and that's what you would see as a rich text box. So you would see, let's see here, let's switch this. That's where you would see something like, let me see here. It's where you would see this. This is format 513, so it's reusable. You can type in stuff. You can type in all kinds of things here, but that's reusable. So, and that's pretty much how they work. So that's really all we're gonna do in the FOMod utility is we're gonna put this little opcode. We're gonna put this little case statement in, and then everything's pretty much done. So let's go down to this right here. Let's see. Here we go. So here's the worker or the thread that gets called. And the only reason I had to put this in here, normally you can use the libraries for that, but the only reason I had to put this in here is I had to do a little bit of different processing before I actually call. This is the library call. That's the library call. See? And it's in the game library. So I had to do a little bit of extra processing, but if you notice when you get to the end, I actually take there's an output, the install the direct install function or install mod function creates a report. But like I say, it doesn't do anything. You have to actually do something with it. So that's what I do here. I actually grab the report, put it back into this this structure right up here. The structure is right here. This structure is a structure that holds information for the framework. It lets you put different parameters, different parameter types. It makes the framework extensible. So I simply replace that information here, and then I do a callback. See the callback up here? That is what sets that flag. You can do an auto callback, but it won't actually have the report in it. So if you want to change the contents of the function call, then you have to actually manually call it back because I had to make the changes and I sent the data back. So in a sense, to the framework, this is a brand new function, even though it's the same one. It's a brand new function coming in. Okay. So I know that covers a lot. And I usually wing these, so they're probably boring as heck, and it's probably drones on until the end of time. But it's something I want to show how it works because in case anybody ever wants to mod those frameworks, all of the like let's say you want to mod you want to actually add some features to FOMod utility, on your own or anything that I write. All of this stuff is there, and that's what I meant when I said the libraries are complete. They are complete. So even though this thing looks like it has a lot in it, everything here is pretty much in a library except this. These are actually done in the application. I consider these application specific. This is actually a report that comes from the games library. The icons and stuff, all that's generated there. I just throw it up over here. This is all game library. In fact, if you look at anything, if you go over here to take a look at, let's say, let's look at a load order summary. This summary report is actually in the games library. It is not application specific. It knows where everything is. It knows where to find the data. It compiles a summary, and yeah, that's pretty much it. To open the archives, when you open the archive files, an example is you can do this. You can click this, 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 if you want to check it, and we can go down here and say check install, and literally it'll buzz through and check all the items. So you can actually see where it checks the different items. This one's not installed yet. So you can see where it's not installed. This one is where it's changed. There's a thing, and it actually shows you. So one of the things I wanted to do is if you had files that were different, there's a database that's actually built. It's from the manifest, and it shows you where they come from. But this is more like a hover event, so it's pretty quick. What you can do is you can go over here and you can do a show conflicts on the individual item if you wanted to look at the individual item. Or what you could do is you can do a conflict source, and it'll show you any of the conflicts that exist for that particular mod. And that's what you're looking at here. So if you were to find something like, let's say, that had some changes, and I have no idea which one of these would have any changes. I honestly don't know. You'd have to literally find one. Let me think. I know one that does. Let's look at Edge UI. All right, let's buzz over here, find some Edge UI stuff. Okay, so let's just check this for the heck of it. And nope, not that one. Okay, like this. So as an example like this, see, there's a lot of different file changes. So let's say I wanted to really get a summary of all this. I can just do conflict source, and then you literally can see what the winning item is. And it makes it much easier to see, uh, like, okay, I'm trying to think how to put this. The problem I had when I was modding was I wasn't sure, like with PG Patcher, things like that, I wasn't sure what was PG Patcher and what was something else. I'd have to scroll over each one, and I'm like, that's too much trouble. So I went ahead and just created that simple report. It's in the games library, and what you can do is you just run it, and it'll literally say it makes it easy to see who is winning all these, who's winning all of these conflicts. And the thing I wanted to do with it was, let's find this, is I can go in and I can install from here. So if I'm thinking, because a lot of times I'll go in and I'll put a mod in. Like let's say I'm in mid game, I've installed a mod and it's overwritten something. So I want to fix that. Well, I can look at the conflicts. I can see what, the actual, I can see every folder that has that file in it. And then I can pick the one that I want, and I can install that folder again, and I can build from that way forward. I can build over here if I want to do that, or I can go in and simply install a single file. That'll install that single file back in, and I can do like you had the override exists. I did test that code, so that does work. You can put it in an override folder, and therefore it will not be overwritten. So anytime you go to install something, if it's in that override folder, it doesn't get overwritten. Uh, but yeah, that's what I've been working on with this. I'm gonna work on the toolbar here. That's coming up next. I've got some sorting I want to do. It's very, very simple sorting. I'm just going to toss it in there in case anybody wants to use it. It'll be in the library. It's not going to be in here. But it does sort based on whether it's category, whether it's section, or whether it's a category, because you can have multiple categories within a section. Every section is unique, and then you can have different categories within that section. Um, yeah, I think that about covers it. This is that little debug window that you've seen in the other applications. This is where I can keep track to make sure that, if I get a lot of calls from something where it's like it's invalid parameters, then I can go back in and say, okay, what's causing this? Where's this at? Also, a lot of this won't show up when this is compiled as a release version, because I do have it conditionally compiled so that if it's a debug version, it will show a lot of these things. I did change some of this up here as you've seen. I did put some color coding on the on the task name, things like that. I made this a little bit more readable. Um, see here, you can see like the different kinds of stuff. I did that. And, yeah, mostly it's been, library stuff. Okay, so I don't wanna drone on too much. I'm pretty sure this video has gone way longer than anybody can tolerate, but that's kinda like what I'm working on now, where everything kinda is. I redid the theme system. God, there's so much stuff. I mean, I don't even have there's no script, man. I just gotta I kinda wing this stuff. So there's, I redid the theme system so it now works like I wanted it to. Before it was kind of very, very inefficient. Now it's much more efficient. Now when you start the game up, it'll actually start up in your game theme as opposed to before it started up normally, then kicked into the theme. Um, I'm sure there's a lot more, but it doesn't come to mind at the moment. Alrighty, well I'm gonna go ahead and cut this not short, but I'll go ahead and end this one, and, I gotta hit some coffee, and then I'm gonna get started doing some coding. Alright, so everybody have a great day. If you made it this far, kudos to you. I probably would have fell asleep after the first 5 minutes. Alright, everybody, have a good one.